Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
We're continuing with our literature unit for the month of May, and the book we're talking about is entitled The Art of Being Normal, and this book is a work of fiction for young readers, I believe, and it's all about things that have to do with transgender issues, okay? Transgender means you identify with a different gender to what you were born with.
Yeah, David Piper is the protagonist. He's also got a good friend, a secondary character. His name is Leo Denton. They can understand each other. They can sympathize with each other. And they can support each other. We're going to talk about Lisa Williamson, the author. This is her debut novel, or the first novel that was published. And also, we're going to talk about some of the themes as well. So, as we always do, we're going to read through day 2 first, and then we'll be back to talk about some of these words. Lisa Williamson's debut novel, The Art of Being Normal, is a significant story of love, support, and friendship, and one of the few young adult books to feature transgender protagonists. The inspiration for this touching story of self-realization came to Williamson while she was working as an administrator at London's Gender Identity Development Service, GIDS, which provides counseling and support to young people who are struggling with the development of their gender identity. Noticing that there was an extraordinary lack of first-person transgender narratives in young adult literature, she set out to tell a story that could speak to young people like those who visited the center. The term transgender describes people whose gender identity does not match the gender they were assigned at birth. Ignorance and a lack of education about transgender issues mean that most transgender people feel uncomfortable or unsafe expressing their true selves. In a 2019 survey of LGBTQ people in the UK, only 5% of young transgender people responded that they felt very comfortable in their own skin. While exploring some of the universal challenges faced by adolescents, The Art of Being Normal endeavors to share 2 personal stories of growth and development that are seldom touched upon in young adult literature. In choosing 2 very different young people as her protagonists, Williamson also explains that there is no single transgender experience. Where Kate experiences acceptance, Leo is rejected. Where Leo shows confidence, Kate is apprehensive. Ultimately, though, it is steadfast mutual support that carries the pair through to the book's ending. Normal might be a stupid concept, as Leo asserts in the book, but friendship is everything.
Okay, let's talk about the contents of our lesson for today. Again, it's all about strength and support. And especially, it's about transgender pride in our featured work of literature entitled The Art of Being Normal. Now, the author of this novel is a woman by the name of Lisa Williamson. This is her debut novel, The Art of Being Normal. It's her first novel. And it is a significant story of various things. It's a story of love, of support, and friendship. And also, it's one of the few young adult books to feature transgender protagonists. Okay, so most young readers' books or young adult books have protagonists that are, I guess, normal, okay? You got a boy, you got a girl, or whatever. You seldom see the protagonist as being someone who is transgender. In other words, someone who feels they're a different gender from what they were born with. Now, a protagonist, of course, is the main character of a novel, the character or characters that the action kind of centers around.
Yeah, so the protagonist, of course, would be David Piper. And I was calling Leo Denton the secondary character, but together they're both considered protagonists or major figures or prominent figures in this particular book. So they're the ones that we really follow closely. It's really their story. So Lisa Williamson wrote The Art of Being Normal, and it's her debut novel. As Tom said, it's her first publication. And it's a story of love, support, and friendship. So we've got the inspiration for this touching story of self-realization. If you have inspiration for something, it just means you get the idea from something. So this inspiration, or the inspiration Lisa had to pen this novel or write this book, came as she was working as an administrator of London's Gender Identity Development Service, or a social group that actually counseled these transgender folks, especially to the young folks, these adolescents. If you're an adolescent, that's that period of life where you're transitioning from child to adult. And it's hard for everyone, but it would be particularly difficult for someone who was assigned their gender at birth. Maybe they were assigned as a boy. They were born biologically as a boy, but they felt inside as a girl, or vice versa, both ways. So if you talk about self-realization, it's just describing a period of time that you go through where you figure out who you really are. And to be honest, it's difficult for anybody going through junior high and high school to figure out who they are and to feel confident and secure. Everybody is sort of insecure. They don't know who they are or what they want to become. But it's particularly difficult for this group of folks who actually identify with a different gender than they were assigned at birth.
Yes, that's just one aspect of self-realization, your gender. If you're a transgender person, you're going to have this problem with self-realization. But as Stephanie said, we all experience this. Gee, who am I in this world? What kind of job should I get? What should I study in university? Am I a social person, or am I kind of shy or whatever? Yes, we're constantly asking ourselves these questions. And here, Lisa Williamson was working at London's Gender Identity Development Service as an administrator, and that's where she got the inspiration for this novel, when helping those young people who were struggling with the development of their gender identity. So such young people would come to this place to get some counseling, and therefore she got some ideas for this novel. Now, counseling just means you talk to somebody about something that's bothering you or some difficulty you're having in your life. They help listen to you. They mainly listen to you, but they kind of help you figure out what you need to do and to help you feel better and to offer some advice to you and to tell you maybe some people that you could talk to or introduce you to other people who have the same problem, etc., etc. That's what a counselor does.
So they provide counseling, or as Tom said, they listen and then they offer some advice to people. And these are young people who are struggling with the development of their gender identity. Noticing that there was an extraordinary lack of first-person transgender narratives in young adult literature, she set out to tell a story that could speak to young people like those who visited the center where she worked. Now, if you're talking about first-person narratives, it just means stories that come from the person actually involved. So your first-person narrator or first-person narration in a book would be someone who is in the novel, but they tell the story from their own perspective. It's not somebody else talking about them. They are telling the story directly. So a narrative is just a story. It could be a story in a book, or it could be, nowadays we're hearing a lot of narratives in the news. Sometimes our media wants us to believe a certain viewpoint, and so they try to tell the story that they want people to believe, whereas maybe there's another narrative that you're hearing someplace else. So it's just a connected events that people put together and decide how something is unfolding. So, yeah, there weren't a lot of books out there, or at least novels, or even biographies or autobiographies written by people who were transgender. So she thought, there's sort of a place in the market where I could write something that would help transgender kids going through their puberty years or this year as adolescents. I could help them that way. So that's what she set out to do, is tell a story that these transgender young people could relate to. To set out just means you're starting a new project or a new adventure, and you set out to do something. Just means you start something that you hope will one day be successful.
Right, so she began to tell this story, and she hoped that this story could speak to young people like those who visited the center. So yes, if you have issues being a transgender person, this might be a good novel to read, and it will help you with your own self-realization. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是派老师。我们今天延续前一天所讲解的课程，5月份杂志 Unit14 Strength, Support and Transgender Pride in the Art of Being Normal。对不起，我不正常。什么才是正常？第二天的课文介绍作者 Lisa Williamson 的背景，介绍他为何创作《The Art of Being Normal》这本小说。我们一起来看这几段的学习重点。第一段，请看到第一句最后一个逗点之后 ，and one of the few young adult books to feature transgender protagonists 这个句子，我们要看到的是 feature 这个及物动词，在这个句子里，它指的是以谁为主角。在介绍电影的文章里，很常看到这个动词，比方说 Pretty Woman, a romantic comedy that premiered in 1997, features Julia Roberts and Richard Gere。麻雀变凤凰这部浪漫喜剧片在1997年上映，由茱莉亚·罗伯兹和理查·吉尔主演。Feature 也有以什么什么什么为主要特色，以什么什么什么为卖点的意思。比方说 Apple products feature a minimalist design， 苹果的产品以设计简约为卖点。请看到第一段最后一个句子，从 noticing 开始。Noticing that there was 好，一直到后面的 who visited the center。 请注意这里的 noticing 其实是分词构句，它的主词呢一样就是后面的这个 she， 也就是呢我们这一本小说的创作者。再接着请同学看到 an extraordinary lack， 这里的 an extraordinary lack， extraordinary 在这里不做非凡杰出的意思，而是呢极度的缺乏。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue talking about the novel The Art of Being Normal. How to be normal, or at least how to not be normal. Again, this is a novel by Lisa Williamson, and it's all about being a transgender person. So remember, she worked in this gender identity development service in London, which provided counseling for young people who were struggling with their gender identity. So she got some ideas and she set out. She began to tell a story that could speak to young people like those who came to the center. Now, again, to set out, we did mention that that means to begin to do something. As an example, I could say you could set out on a journey, for example. I could say, hey, we set out for Kaohsiung at 6 o'clock this morning. We left for Kaohsiung at 6 o'clock this morning because it is at least a 5-hour drive.
Ooh, yeah. Or it could be more like a project at work. Maybe you work with a bunch of scientists and you set out to prove your theory that it's true. So you could set out doing lots of things. Well, she set out to actually produce a novel that would be something that would be supportive of the transgender population that she often came across in her work, her daily job. It sounds like she wasn't so much of a counselor, but an administrator. If you're an administrator at some sort of company or group, it just means you're actually trying to make sure that organization runs smoothly. You're probably paying bills or making sure you hire the right people, things like that. So moving on to the second paragraph, it says, the term or word transgender describes people whose gender identity does not match the gender they were assigned at birth. So perhaps you were born male, and that says you're a boy or you're a male on your birth certificate, but you inside yourself just feel more like a female or a girl. So that would mean that your gender identity is in conflict or isn't matching up with what you're told you are. So ignorance and a lack of education about transgender issues mean that most transgender people, they feel uncomfortable or unsafe talking about their true selves, how they really feel inside. Ignorance is a state of not having information or knowledge or experience in a particular situation. You just don't know. So you could describe someone as being ignorant in a particular field or ignorant about a particular social issue. A lot of older people don't understand transgender issues because they haven't experienced it themselves or don't know anybody who's transgender. A lack of education can cause ignorance. Ignorant, of course, is the adjective form of this noun ignorance. So if you say someone's ignorant, it just means they don't know what they're talking about.
Yep, I'm ignorant about something. I don't know anything about it, so don't ask me for advice. But in this particular case, we're talking about ignorance and a lack of education about transgender issues. And these things mean that most transgender people feel uncomfortable or unsafe expressing their true selves. So again, because most people don't know about transgender issues and because there isn't much education about the subject, people who struggle with their gender identity will feel uncomfortable about expressing the true selves. They just don't want to tell their friends, hey, you know, I was born a boy and I got a really low voice, but still I feel like I'm a girl. You know, that's just something you don't want to tell people. And of course, the opposite, if you were born a girl but you feel more like a boy, yeah, you'd be uncomfortable telling people about that, telling your parents or your teachers or classmates or whoever.
Yeah, notice this phrase, to be comfortable in your own skin. It just means that whoever you are, and you might be very different from people that are around you, your friends, your family, whoever you are, you feel okay about it. You're confident about it, so you're comfortable in your own skin. If you're uncomfortable in your own skin, just means you don't feel very confident about who you are, or maybe you just don't know who you are yet. I would say the vast majority of kids in junior high and high school are not yet comfortable in their own skin. It takes some experiences and maybe making some good friends along the way to help you feel more comfortable in your own skin. Everyone's situation's a little different. Now, moving on to the last paragraph, it says, while exploring some of the universal challenges faced by adolescents, The Art of Being Normal endeavors to share two personal stories of growth and development that are seldom touched upon in young adult literature. So we've got universal challenges. Universal just means it's true of the whole world. There are some challenges that everyone faces when they're going through adolescence, which is that period of time, again, where you change from a child into a young adult. Universal means it affects everybody, or it's done by everyone in the world, or not just by one particular group. Everybody understands what some of those universal challenges are. It's probably just feeling like you're attractive. Maybe you feel ugly when you're in junior high and high school. It takes a while to really grow into who you are and feeling confident and comfortable with yourself. Very few kids, even in high school, feel confident, truly confident. They pretend sometimes.
Indeed. So, yeah, it's before you're an adult, you're an adolescent. And, of course, this book endeavors or tries or attempts to share two personal stories of growth and development that are seldom touched upon in young adult literature. So, yeah, to endeavor just means to try to do something, to take an effort, to make an effort in order to do something. So, again, this novel tries to share these two stories, which are about growth and development. But these kinds of stories are not really touched upon in adult literature very often. So, to touch upon something or to touch on something just means to actually deal with that subject, to say something about it.
To mention it, yeah. So, yeah, you'll often see the phrase, good luck in all your future endeavors. Maybe you're partying with some friends or colleagues and they're moving, you won't see them for a while. That's a common, kind of a good luck phrase. Good luck in all your future endeavors or whatever you try in the future. We hope you're successful. So, yeah, she does kind of focus her attention onto very personal and special stories of growth and development that usually aren't seen in young adult literature. I think we're going to see more and more. Now, in choosing these two very different young people as her protagonists or the main characters in her novel, Williamson also explains that there is no single transgender experience. I think you could say there's no single adolescent experience. Everyone has a different experience. I had different experiences than my own brothers and sisters, so we know that everyone's experience is different. So it's kind of nice to share our experiences with each other. Now, Kate, remember that is David's name once David transitions or comes out as a female or a girl. Kate experiences acceptance. Remember, her father says, hey, who's normal? No one wants to be normal. Everyone wants to be special, and that's the truth. But Leo Denton, who was born or assigned the gender female as a young person, feels like a boy. Leo was rejected. So Leo's experience and Kate's experience have been so different. You could say they were on opposite ends.
Yep, Kate got acceptance. People accepted her. I could say, for example, I didn't have any acceptance at that company, so I quit. Everybody treated me like a stranger. They weren't nice to me, so I quit.
Oh, that's hard.
That's an example. But Leo, however, is rejected. Okay, Leo does not experience acceptance. She is rejected. And where Leo shows confidence, Kate is apprehensive. Apprehensive, I guess, is the opposite of having confidence. Apprehensive just means you're just kind of nervous, you're not sure about things. Ultimately, in the end, though, it is steadfast mutual support that carries the pair through to the book's ending. Steadfast means continuous, it doesn't stop. And, of course, we've got mutual support for each other. Mutual just means between both of us. I could say, hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. The feeling is mutual. I feel the same way.
Yeah, something that's experienced by each of the people involved. So, yeah, their experience was very different, but they support each other, which is great. Everyone needs a good friend, at least one good friend in this life, and that carries the pair through to the book's ending. Normal might be a stupid concept, as Leo says or asserts. If you assert something, you say something very strongly. Oh, normal's just kind of a stupid idea. But friendship is everything. Friendship really is very important to feeling comfortable and having happiness in this life. Right now, we're going to take a few more minutes and listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back to say goodbye.
课文在第二段界定了 transgender 跨性别，也透过数据让我们了解到跨性别者普遍上都承受了重大的性别认同压力。我们接着看第二段学习重点，请看到第一个句子 The term transgender describes people whose gender identity does not match the gender they were assigned at birth. 这个句子有点复杂，我们一步步拆解来看。第一步，先看 assign 这个及物动词的用法，和 give 一样，后面要接两个受词，意思是把什么东西指派给某某人。比方说 The teacher assigned a new task to me. The teacher assigned me a new task. Assign 在这篇文章里则是指定。Leo was assigned the gender of female at birth. Leo 出生的时候被指定为女性。我们回到句子来看 assign 后面还少一个受词，就是 they 前面的 gender。从 match 之后，这部分名词词组的意思是他们出生时被指定的性别。第二步，请看 whose 关系代名词所有格，代表前面的名词 people 这些人，再加上所有格，意思是这些人的。These people's gender identity does not match the gender which they were assigned at birth. 这些人的性别认同并不符合他们出生时受到指定的性别。课文最后一段再度确认，这本小说的主题主要是呈现跨性别青少年成长发展过程当中所面对的难关，而且也点出虽然都是跨性别者，但每个个体的生命经验都还是有个别差异，不能一概而知的，不能以一概之的。第三段，我们看第三段的重点，请看到第一个句子的主要子句 The art of being normal endeavors to share two personal stories of growth and development. 请同学把 endeavor to 这个片语画起来。endeavor to 就是努力认真的要达成。老师用武汉肺炎来举个例句给大家。The Central Epidemic Command Center, CECC, 也就是中央疫情指挥中心。The CECC endeavors to keep COVID-19 at bay to ensure people's safety and health in Taiwan. 那我们台湾的中央疫情指挥中心非常努力的将武汉肺炎隔绝在外，保障了台湾国民的健康以及安全。请看到第三和第四个句子 Where Kate experiences acceptance, Leo is rejected. Where Leo shows confidence, Kate is apprehensive. 这里的 where 是连接词，与 whereas 一样，前后两个子句形成鲜明的对比。Kate 得到了接纳，而 Leo 却受到拒绝。Leo 展现自信，而 Kate 却忧虑不安。接着请同学看到倒数第二句 Ultimately, though it is steadfast, mutual 这边，请同学注意到这里的 it is that 请画起来，这是一个分裂句强调句，要强调的就是他们坚定的相互的支持，让这两个好朋友可以呢走到这本小说的最后结尾的地方。以上就是我们针对第二天课程内容所做的中文讲解，谢谢大家。
That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program, and join us next month for another edition of our literature unit. Until then, from all of us here, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.